Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld again. Thanks for stopping by, and just remember, if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, feel free to take a look at some of my other videos if you like. You can find them all in playlists in the description down below. But anyway, today we're going to go back and revisit the topic of PC versus console, which is a topic that I've made quite a few videos about, but the fact is most of these videos are now more than a year old. In fact, the first of these videos was all the way back in September of 2014, and quite a lot has changed in the industry since then. And that's to be expected because we are talking about a technology industry here, and you can't expect gaming to stay the same forever. So is it finally time to admit that the consoles are starting to show their age? Well, I'd say so, considering they were already old technology when they came out over 2 years ago now. Before we start though, I just want to point out that obviously exclusive games are a big factor here, but in this video we're only going to be drawing comparisons from multi-plat games. And that's because I'm trying to make this video from the perspective of someone like me, who owns both platforms and can pick and choose what to buy for. Also, I'm not going to be comparing things like price in this video, because in my experience there's not a huge difference when you buy a game at launch. Also, prices can vary drastically depending on what region you're in, so let's just pretend we all have $1 million and money isn't an issue. So, bearing this in mind, to kick off, as for the main points of difference, generally speaking you're comparing performance, controls and community. And usually the way that it works is a decent gaming PC will have better performance and controls, but consoles usually have the better community. And that's simply because you can build an up-to-date PC that will smash any game you throw at it, if, of course, you're willing to spend a bit more money. But on the other hand, consoles are a nice neat little package you can buy off a shelf, which is the simplest option and the one that most gamers take these days. When you take a look at these points in a game like Battlefront, you can see that sure enough the PC does have the better performance. On console, both games are running at 60 FPS, but unlike the PC, the PS4 is limited to 900p resolution, and the Xbone is limited to only 720p. Also, on PC you have the ability to play with a mouse and keyboard, which most people would argue is the better option for shooter games. But on the other hand, when you take a look at the community, there's 6 or 7 times more active players on PS4, which is something that significantly extends the life of the game. Now, obviously this isn't the case for every game, and you might find that on any one of these points the difference will vary. Also, how much you weigh these points is up to you as the player. Like, for example, I would probably value the community side of things more than performance, which is why I went out and bought Battlefront on console, because I sort of had a feeling that it was going to die pretty quickly on PC. And at the end of the day, when the community of a multiplayer game dies, then things like performance and controls don't really matter anymore. On the other hand though, another game that I went out and bought this holidays was Fallout 4, but this time I bought it for the PC. And that's because even though Fallout 4 on console runs at 1080p resolution, it only runs at 30 FPS, which is a really big deal if you're used to more than 60 FPS. Also, the community doesn't really matter in this case because it's an offline game, meaning you're never going to have to worry about people to play with. And also, this means that controls aren't an issue because you're not going to be up against other players, so you're not going to be at a disadvantage if you decide to plug in a controller. But getting back to the main theme of this video, I've been finding lately that more and more I'm opting for the PC version of games for one reason or another. And as you've seen already in this video, that's not because I'm a PC master race guy. I really take the time to think about which platform is best for each game that I buy. The reason I think the difference is becoming more obvious though, is because the performance gap is getting bigger and bigger as time goes on. And now, more than ever, as the consoles age, like Fallout 4, developers are being forced to run their games in either 1080p or at 60 FPS, but they can't do both. That being said, games that run at 900p, honestly, I don't really have a huge problem with, but I'll admit that when it gets as low as 720p, it does start to look pretty crappy. The worst thing is when the devs go for that 30 FPS option, and like I said, this is where I start looking for the PC version instead. I mean, for example, the next big game on my wish list is The Division, which sure enough I'll be buying on PC for this exact reason. And you can bet that won't be the last time I make this choice this year, because as the scope of games gets bigger, the more we're going to see that 30 FPS cap. Now, just finally, I'll admit that the comparisons I've been making so far in this video have been about completely different types of games. I mean, I'm aware Fallout and The Division are sandbox games, whereas a game like Battlefront is a much smaller scale shooter. But fast forward to the end of 2016. What about Battlefield 5? Surely they're not going to scale back on BF4. And just bear in mind that BF4 is a game that barely runs at 60 FPS on console, and for that matter, neither does Battlefield Hardline. So to make the game better, unless they pull off some kind of miracle of optimization, logic says they're going to have to make a trade-off in some way. And I think after the backlash from Battlefront, it's unlikely they're going to scale back the amount of content or the size of the game in general. So unless they stick with those 2013 style graphics, that leaves the resolution and the frame rate. Could we really be seeing BF5 running at 720p or 30 FPS? And if this was the case, would it convince you to buy the PC version instead? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But anyway, guys, that just about wraps up my thoughts on this topic, so let me know what you think, and as always, if you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out the links in the description below if you want to see more of my videos, or if you want to support my channel on Patreon. And until next time, see you later, and have a good one.